Hi, I'm Matt with Etrailer. If you have a 2015 Toyota 4Runner and you're looking for a rack that's not going to take up very much space in your garage because you need something pretty compact, but you need something that's going to carry all four of your bikes so you and your family can go out riding and also accommodate for you if you just want to take a friend out with you, something that's going to be more compact, then the Benton Shifts and Grins bike rack is going to be a great option for you. So let's check it out. And we were able to get our rack fully installed. Now I got the bike on it, just to kind of give you an idea what it's going to look like. And right now it's getting great clearance. We're not going to make contact with the vehicle. And it's giving us a pretty good hold too. One of the big benefits to this rack though with the 4Runner is you're going to get that full hatch access. And I'll really show you what I mean is if I come over here to this button at the very end, press on that, that's going to lower it down. And right here, we're actually not making contact with the ground. I can get my hand underneath there. It's just barely making clearance though. If you're on uneven terrain though, it might be a little bit different for you. You might make contact there, but this is still a pretty extreme tilt, and this is going to allow us to open up our hatch completely. As you can see, well, a few inches away from our pedal, actually not even close to making contact. So even if it didn't extend all the way, we're still good. We even have a ladder back here, and we're not making contact with anything. So this is doing a great job, and this is going to be great if you're out and about, maybe you need to grab a few groceries, throw something in the back of the vehicle, you can do that. Or if you want to get ready for your ride, you can grab your shoes, your helmet, even take a seat in the back, and then be ready to go. And we'll put it back into the seated position. Now, we'll say there are a few things to think about this. And that's going to be lifting this up. If you have this fully loaded with 55-pound bikes, because it is going to have a max capacity of 55 pounds per bike, this is going to be really heavy. I'll actually grab down here and actually have a lot of weight. I could probably pick it up with one arm, but it's also only loaded with one bike too, so try to take that into consideration. And this is being lifted up pretty high. But great if you have your whole family with you and you want to go out riding. You'll be able to manage that. Now, if you're looking for something a little bit more lightweight, something that's not going to take up as much space as this, I'd actually recommend checking out the Benton Shift Show. That's going to be a much smaller version of this. Only it's going to be a hanging style bike rack. So it'll let you still carry the same amount of bikes, but be smaller and more lightweight. Only thing is, it just won't be as sturdy as this because this is giving us a really good hold right now. But that's actually you start taking off the bike so we can kind of see how it's held in place. So where I like to start is with these straps. I already have that back one removed, but the front one is going to be the same process. You're just going to press on this tab, and then that'll release and get out of our way. And then typically you'd remove the back one, but now I'm going to start taking off the bike. And I will say, with just a 2-bike variation of this, pretty easy to unload and put up here. With the 4-bike one, it is a little bit more tricky since you do have to kind of walk around it or try to step in between those because you're going to be trying to reach a fair bit. But you're just going to press down on this button, kind of wiggle that off. And the reason why I have this kind of mounted to the frame of my bike is because I have fenders, so it won't let me attach it to the tires. And that's nice that you can choose between the frame or tires, whether you have a bike with fenders or if you have a bike with a really nice paint job or is made out of carbon or a carbon frame bike. And from here, I'm just going to lift up and take it with me. And now this is on the lighter end of the e-bike, so I can manage it a little bit easier, but if this was a bike that was about 55 pounds, that would be pretty difficult there. I will say what can make that process easier though is if maybe you've got home and you're already taking this rack off anyways, then you could simply just remove that last 2 add-on there and move it over to the side and then take off your bike. But if you're out and about, let's say you're going on the trails, it would be a little bit inconvenient to take that off and then re-put it back on before you leave. So it is something to think about. But we can put everything back into place. It is important you put this back on because you need that if you want to put your bike back on. And we can put these straps back on too. And I will say the nice thing about this is you can actually maneuver these a little bit. So if you have a different wheelbase, you can actually just slide these trays up and down on these bars. But from here, let's get a few measurements. So the first measurement I want to get is going to be our ground clearance. So going to the furthest point out, this has a slight kind of slope to it, or going up. So this is going to be pretty high. So this is going to be just a little bit under 27 inches. So that has to be plenty of ground clearance, especially being this far out. You shouldn't make contact with the ground. The biggest thing to think about is those 55-pound bikes, if you're loading them up here. If you have standard bikes, this isn't going to be an issue at all. Now for the total distance it's going to sit away from our vehicle, this is a pretty long rack. And that's going to be sitting at, from your bumper to the back of the vehicle, about a little bit under 59 inches. So that's a fair bit that I add to it. But we can save a ton of space two ways. The first way is going to be if we just press on that button, and this time push up. And from here, this is only going to sit out just about a little bit over 20 inches. So that's really not too much space at all. There is a counter side to that. If it's in this position, it is going to block quite a bit back here. What it's going to block mainly is going to be your backup camera. If you can see some spots through here, it's still going to mostly obstruct it, so I'd really stick to mainly using your mirrors. Typically, I'd also recommend using your back window to back up with, but this is also kind of blocking that too. And your license plate will be partially obstructed. There's still enough gaps through here to kind of see it somewhat, but it is something to consider too. But your taillights, since they're kind of so off to the side, won't be blocked at all. Now I know I mentioned there's another way to save space, and that's going to be by taking this off. Really doesn't take too much. All you have to do is undo this knob on the back side. Just take a few turns. I actually like to lift up on it some, make that a little bit easier. Eventually you'll kind of hear it click. With that loosened up, all I have to do is lift. Sometimes you might have to wiggle it some. And just like that, you can see all the space we're saving, and now you can see out of your back window. And the way this is going to install is we're going to have this 2-inch shank that goes into your 2-inch hitch receiver. Then you're going to have this anti-rattle bolt that goes through and secures this down so it's not going to rattle inside your receiver. Now, we'll say we also have this alignment collar. The downside to this, though, is it's not going to work for our setup today because we have this gap. And what this alignment collar is doing is it's going to make contact with the edge of your receiver so you can more easily line up that pin. So it's not going to take you too long to load this up every time you're ready to go out and about. But since we're not making contact here, it's not helping us. Now, if you had a different type of receiver at the very end and it was sticking out a little bit more, then this might be a better fit for you. Now, in my opinion, I think this is a solid bike rack if you do want to take your family out and about. You need to save room in your garage, and sometimes maybe you don't need a 4-bike carrier. This is going to meet all those criteria. Now, if you're looking for something a little bit smaller, more lightweight, because this can be a little bit of a hassle to take on and off because it is made out of some pretty sturdy steel, which is kind of making it a little bit heavy to work with. If that's your case, then I'd recommend checking out the Benton Shift Show like I mentioned earlier. That's great because it's more lightweight. It is going to be a hanging style bike rack, so your bikes might sway a little bit, but they shouldn't make contact with your vehicle with how far away it's sitting anyway, so it's still going to give you a good hold overall. But that's just a look at the Benton Shifts and Grins bike rack on the back of our 2015 Toyota 4Runner. I'm Matt. Thanks for watching.